Welcome back to Loveshack, and welcome back to the first video of the new year. It has been a bit chaotic trying to get some things in order, and there's a couple of projects I'm working on that I'm really excited to share with you guys that have to do with Yu-Gi-Oh! And gaming. Hopefully I'll have an update coming on that pretty soon, but in the meantime, I have missed a lot of cards since we've started going through and, taking a little bit of a holiday break. So I want to jump right into all of that and talk about some of the new cards we're missing, starting off with what's probably about a week and a half old at this point, but Bestial is actually going to be getting a new Synchro, as well as Despia. Tons of cool stuff in Cyberstorm Access, which there's even more videos coming up. They are just going all out with this set with crazy, crazy support. So we're going to take a look at that. Let's actually jump into the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and today we are going to take a look at some of the new cards like I mentioned. You can find my socials here. If you guys do enjoy the content and the video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Click the bell icon if you want to stay notified with new videos as they are posted, because it does help to have that support for the channel. So as I promised, we are going to be jumping into the cards from Cyberstorm Access. I am a little bit behind, but I will be catching up in the coming days. And one of the first cards that we've got here, which has some absolutely insane artwork for what it's worth, is Bestial Despia. This is a level 10 Dark Synchro monster, dragon type, that needs one tuner and one or more non-tuner dragon monsters. So not super hard to do, especially with how easy it is to get dragons and, decks like Dragon Link or variations of it nowadays. But every deck's playing Bestials, so if you're playing tuners, there's certainly ways you can make this work. Now, the effect says you can target one banished light or dark monster, special summon it to your field. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can target one banished card, shuffle it into the deck. Then, if you were that card's owner, destroy that opponent's monster. Otherwise, negate that activated effect. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn. So, it's really, really neat for a few reasons. For one, being able to just grab a banished light or dark monster, especially in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Where banishing is essentially a second graveyard, is really strong. But also being an omni-negate that basically lets you put a banished card back into the deck, meaning you can disrupt the opponent in some circumstances. So you either get to destroy the monster but not negate the effect, or if it's your opponent's card you put back, then you also negate the effect but the monster does not get destroyed. So there's different ways to play this, but everyone is playing vanishing cards, especially with the Bestials basically being auto-includes in most decks right now. So this card does have some potential. I don't know how easy it's going to be to make from a level perspective, because it is a level 10, so, you'd probably need, some combination, a level 2 tuner and 2 dragons, or maybe some dragons and levels which you modify. I think it'll find a bit more of a niche use rather than being generically splashed in anything, but there are plenty of synchro-centric decks still, or decks that play tuners, that do want to have this as an option, so I think it's intriguing. Do I think it's game-breaking? Absolutely not, but it's cool to see Bestial getting some more support that is not so poorly designed that you can just basically splash it into anything, but still has some competitive viability. All right, next up we've got Albaz the Incandescent Dragon. So Fallen of Albaz is still getting more support, including a new fusion monster. This one is a level 8 light fusion dragon that needs Fallen of Albaz and one light spellcaster. Cannot be used as fusion material. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. You can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target 2 monsters in any graveyard. Special summon both monsters, one on each field. If this card is in your graveyard, you contribute 4 monsters in the extra monster zones and each player's center main monster zone, and if you do, special summon this card. So it's a very lore-heavy card, obviously, playing a lot into the Albaz lore, with Ecclesia being a spellcaster and the fusion and sacrificing the monsters to bring it back. What really strikes me as neat about this card is, aside from being another Albaz target, and in some cases a decent super poly option, although light spellcaster is a bit more specific than you'd like in most cases, is the fact that it can't be used as fusion material itself, so it can't be super polyed, and the opponent can't target it, so it does have some built-in protection if you are able to make it. That secondary effect of being able to target a monster in any grave and special summon one to each field is really neat too, because you could put monsters on your opponent's field that are problematic for them. Maybe like a barrier statue or Ibli or something along those lines. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of different combos that you can pull off with this, but being able to put a monster on the opponent's field and then trigger something is not something you see often in cards, especially, Summon Sorceress could do it, but generally speaking, it wasn't very commonly done, and it's just not something that you often see, so it's nice to see that as, an option on this card. I don't know how often you're ever really going to pull that last effect off. It seems very, very specific, and obviously meant to play more into the lore than anything, but it's still a cool card, and in the actual deck, if you're playing an Albaz deck, or Dogmatica or some hybrid deck of those things, you definitely can find ways to fit this in. I think it's got some going for it, but I think it's on the weaker end of, a big lore boss that would come up at the end. I don't know. What do you guys think about Albion? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, the next one we've got is a trap. It's called Blazing Branded King, and it has some really cool artwork going on there with our new dragon friend, but the effect is pretty cool too. Choose one fusion monster you control that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material, and negate the effects of all other face-up cards currently on the field until the end phase of this turn. During the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard during this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard to your hand. You can only use one Blazing Branded King effect per turn, and only once that turn. What's neat about this is, of course, it can negate and respond to spells and traps as well. So it gives you a disruption if you just have an Albaz fusion out, but it does have the downside, of course, of negating your cards as well, aside from the targeted monster. So if you're making like a large board or something, you really can only shut off, protect one thing from being shut off. So I guess there's that downside of it being there, but it is very heavily searchable a lot in the deck as well, because Blazing, Branded has a bazillion searchers. So it's a decent option. I don't think it's great on paper, but the self-recursion and the fact that you can kind of negate anything the opponent's playing, because it does say currently on the field, so it's not for the rest of the turn, but it does give you an ability to like blanket shut off some stuff. Just being a trap makes it a little slow. I mean, it's cool for sure, and there may be more to it that I'm seeing just on an initial reaction, but I think it's probably going to end up being skipped over for some other things, or at best played as a one-of that you can search at the end of a combo to set and have another disruption. Alright, and finally for this video, Despian Lulu Walilith. I might have botched that name. That artwork is sick too. It's got some heavy Devil May Cry vibes, which is really cool and definitely appeals to me. It is a level 12 light spellcaster synchro that says 1 level 4 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner monsters. Once per turn, if a card or cards leaves either extra deck, you can make all face-up monsters you currently control gain 500 attack. Then you can negate the effects of one face-up card on the field until the end of this turn. During the end phase, if a card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can special summon one light spellcaster monster whose attack equals its own defense from your hand or deck. You can only use this effect once per turn. So, right off the bat, we see the targets it can bring out are primarily going to be the different Ecclesia monsters. You've got Dogmatica Ecclesia, Incredible Ecclesia, Blazing Cartesia, and then, of course, the new one, whose translation name I'm not fully sure of yet. There are also other cards that fit this description, and someone compiled a list. I haven't had a chance to go through it yet, but I know nothing super noteworthy struck me as, like, a great target. Like, you're typically going to want to bring out one of your Ecclesia variants in order for this to work. Despia Lulu is really cool for a few reasons. One, its negation effect does not target, so you can get over some things that might be a little bit more problematic, but it also has a bit of a specific timing window, I guess, because a card has to leave the extra deck, which means it could be milled, it could be summoned, it could be banished, whatever the reason is, that would trigger it. But it's not like you can just immediately respond and negate to something unless you were to have just a really weird circumstance where a card paid a cost to send something, which, I mean, I guess maybe Nadir Servant or something of that nature, Ultimate Slayer. But, I mean, we're talking about cards that don't even see play. So I don't know how optimal that is, although it's neat that it does have that ability to negate a card, so you can maybe shut off a floodgate, shut off an opponent's boss monster, kind of force a negate. It does have that going for it. And of course, that's end phase effect. Being able to bring out something does give a bit more value to some of the Ecclesia cards, especially, I mean, I've seen Blazing Cartesia went up a ton when this card was announced just because people were going after it, saying, oh my god, it's it synergizes really well with this, and it definitely does have some useful interactions, but I think a lot of them do. I'm just not sure. Despia has not typically been a very synchro-heavy deck, and this is a pretty high-level monster, so I don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, but art-wise, lore-wise, and design-wise, it is super fucking cool. And that's saying something, I think. But we're seeing the branded archetype get a lot more support, and even as we continue here, we are actually seeing more cards from Cyberstorm Access being revealed that are going to support this archetype. I will be covering those in a future video, so if you guys want to see those and haven't had a chance to see them yet, definitely pop back over in the next couple of days as I try to play catch-up. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate the support. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of these cards, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.